here. I'm delighted for all of the thousands of people watching us online in whatever place and time you happen to be in. So, this is the way it works. You get to share your story of increased income by coming up to the front, speaking in the microphone, putting your tithe in the basket, and letting us all in on the good that you have. One of the good things that happened today is that Mark Elliott on his website, Gratitude Seeds, posted the treatment for increased income as a meditation, and you can listen to it, gratitudeseeds.com. Thank you, Mark. Come on, Linda. Woohoo!
I sent a bill, I got an instant PayPal, and here's yours. I am now a licensed professional practitioner. Yay! The other night, I dreamed that a friend of mine from high school sought my counsel, and she paid me $220. So here's a dream time of $22.05 because my landlady, Martin, is so generous with me. Here it is. Down to biddies. Hey, girl!
Hi, guys. Came to do a website, and I have been arguing with myself for the last week over this because it was faith isn't faith and it's easy. So I wanted to put in what I thought I could afford, and instead I'm putting in 10%. Woohoo! Now, the exciting thing is that I've received calls from several family members and friends who are also having an increase in prosperity. It's like it's in the water. Everybody's getting it. I love it.
Yay, Judy!
So I have 4 items. I sold an item on eBay for $4. So it's there for over a year. I sold an item on Let Go today on the way over here for $5. I received a used leaf blower, so that's to be determined as to the value of that. And then I submitted my claim on the Equifax breach credit bureau for $125.
Okay, I got an unexpected job, moving from babies to dogs. That was fabulous, my favorite thing still. I got reimbursed from somebody, and then it wasn't really unexpected, but I found a paycheck that I thought was positive that wasn't really, and so it was kind of like, so I rounded the other two up.
I received $50 bonus check today.
A
little variation. I had Chinese food Saturday night. My fortune cookie read, "You will inherit a large sum of money from an unusual source." Well, I don't want anybody I love to transition, but I bless this increase. It's been a summer. I've missed a couple Sundays, and we've had a couple of Mondays where we didn't have class, so I was kind of falling behind the tide. But I know that my good is here now, and I know that I have more money to spare in the shares, so I'm catching up on my tithe.
I renewed a contract for oil delivery with the company today, and they quoted a price of $2.75, and I just said no, I want better than that, and they brought it down to $2.15. I don't know what the money difference is yet, but I'll find out.
I designed a dress for a client 2 years ago. She's a very prosperous client. I've been treating for her and like her to come back. And she came back with the dress because she liked it so much to get it altered so she can wear it more often. So I got the alterations fees and more work from her down the road.
Well, I had a show open at the Arboretum this past Saturday. 2 prints sold, and then I had a big print sold in my gallery. And I don't know what the income is yet, but it's coming.
Yay,
So we received $650 in rent for our temporary tenant, and we received $350 from a new client to do some Facebook ads. And part 1 of my book went to the editor.
Yeah. You don't need that.
No, I'm turned off.
Oh,
So I do.
you're never.
So I got a refund from the IRS. I haven't had that in decades. That was totally, and then I received a check from Mayheck. I know who Mayheck is, but I've never sent them any money. I have no idea why they're sending me money. But I accept. I got a royalty check from DeVore's, which I never expect. And Triangle Center for Spiritual Living gave me a lovely honorarium for my talk last Sunday. Yay!
And I have an email. Hi, Barbara from Raleigh, North Carolina. Last week I had fun receiving increased income, exclamation point, exclamation point. Watching your energy online is helping me learn to celebrate everything in a bigger way, with excitement. I received a small raise at work, $110 a month. I am tithing 2 months, July and August, $22. I was hired for a small side job, $150. I am tithing $15. I was given an unsolicited love gift from my parents, $200. I am tithing $20. So $570 in all last week. Tithe $57. I'm rounding it up to $60. Sent with love and gratitude via PayPal from a loving, abundant viewer and participant. It is so much fun to demonstrate money. So much fun. Bob and Norma, welcome, welcome, welcome. Who's here for the first time tonight? Louise?
Tama.
Tama?
Yeah.
I was going to call you husband. What is your name?
Hayes.
Pardon me?
Hayes.
Hayes. So wonderful. There are green forms. Does anybody have one? On the back table. Susan is lifting it. There are green forms, and Judy has one. If you want to play the game, this is called the increased income, extreme income, unexpected income, whatever you want to call it, it's fine with us. There's a treatment in there that we just chanted, and we're going to do it a couple more times in the class, so having one of those will give you the words to say. If you want to be a part of the increased income program, then the deal is that you do that treatment at least 2 times a day, preferably lots of times. There are people in this room that have done this treatment for years without stopping. They just do it all the time, and their lives have prospered, and they are blessed. As you demonstrate increased income, that's income above and beyond what you're expecting to get, then you are agreeing to tithe 10% of that increase to this center. And that is to give you the opportunity to experience tithing, to learn how to tithe, to learn how to set spiritual law in motion with your words, your thoughts, and your actions, and then to watch how money shows up in your life from very unexpected ways in increased and wonderful ways. So if you want to play, you don't have to play, but if you want to play, fill out the Put Me on the List section of that flyer, put your name and your address, and even if you're only here for another few days and you go back to wherever you live. Do you live in Minnesota? New Jersey, Minnesota. You go back to Minnesota, keep doing your treatments, and we are all treating for you, and you are treating for all of us. So it's a wonderful time of joining consciousness and creating our good in our life. These white ones, some of them are ones that have come in off the internet. If Margot gets them, she prints them off on green for me and cuts them. But there are people from all over the world participating in this prosperity class and this increased income program, and they are demonstrating. This one person demonstrated $570 last week. There are people all around the world that are joining in consciousness with us so that we can create the life of our dreams. Mary and Deb Love, can I talk about you?
Sure. Yeah.
You had your open house
Yeah.
yesterday, and they reminded me last Monday that they created this amazing green energy, beautiful house in the Olivet community, not a subdivision, a community, complete with full farm and tractor, horses, berries, on the French Broad River, and then you created that a year ago in this class. When you were pining after it, there was no realistic way you were going to get that house. There was no way that you were going to have the money for it. And yet here you sit today, sitting out on your front porch, on your green energy, super duper, whatever the ratings are, house in Olivet, living your dream. I reposted your video tonight because you teach us all how to manifest and create the life of our dreams. And that's what we can do. That's what we can have. We can have it all if we are willing to speak the word, think the thought, and take the action. If we set spiritual law in motion, the only thing that can happen is that the demonstration of our thoughts, our energy, our action, our intention shows up in our lives in a definable way that we can hold in our hand, we can open up the door to, we can drive around town. It's real stuff. It's not airy-fairy stuff, and it works for people in the U.S. just as well as it works, shout out, for Bulgaria, our #1 country right now, Bulgaria. They're all learning how to demonstrate. Yes. Bulgaria, China, India last month. We're touching the world. So the last few classes, we have been kind of pushing the time a little bit towards the end. So I'm going to go ahead and let John take over the class tonight so that he has plenty of time to get his information out. And if there's time left over, I'll jump back in. I love you guys. This is the most fun class that we ever do. I'm so excited to be in it with you. Yeah.
So you notice anything different? Like I need to turn this on first?
You're standing.
No
I am. I'm standing. And the only sign of the school over there away from me.
Yay, John.
But I still have notes. Too much to remember. So, I was reminded in a very firm way that I had not given time to talk about our homework from class 2 by my wife. So I want to start with that. I want to, let's see, I think this is going to work. Let's make sure it's on. It's not. So we're going to start with this. This was homework from week number 2 of the class. And there were 5 questions on a matrix across the top. And your job was for the 6 days between that class and the next class to speak to these 5 questions, probably, one line a day. That was kind of what I had in mind. So the questions were, what's your belief? What's its origin? In other words, what is the origin of that belief? Where did you get it? We had talked in that class about how we gained so much of that from our childhood. How has that affected you? Meaning, because you had that belief, what outcomes have occurred in your life? Do you want to release it? The mandatory answer to that was yes, but I wanted you to write it down. And the final one was, what's your affirmation? Meaning, where do you want to go instead of that place? That was the work. So I just want to open it up to anyone that had a revelation or an interesting thought coming out of that work that week. Anybody have a thought?
Yeah.
So you want to say something there, Jen?
Well.
No. In the mic. Because we want everybody around the world to hear.
So what I identified the belief is there is a limit to what I can have or experience. And its origin is fear and doubt. How has it affected you? It's created my reality of of money smallness and kept me from being all I am. You want to release it?
Yes!
And the affirmation is, there is no limit to what I can have, do, or accomplish.
Woohoo!
Good for you. Anybody else have one they'd like to share? Or a thought? You don't have to actually read it out of your paperwork or your homework. Does anybody? Great. Here you go, Mary.
What is my belief? That you can't trust banking institutions.
Ooh, that's a good one.
And what was its origin? It was three things when I was, and I had not, this had never occurred to me, peeling that onion on that.
Right.
So when I was 7 years old, my grandmother gave me $50 and opened up a checking account for $5 in a checking account. And I put my $50 in there thinking I would get my $50 back. And when I wanted it back, I couldn't get it, because they didn't give me back my $50. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Say that in the mic. What did they give you?
They gave me $2.
It wasn't a $50.
It wasn't my $50.
You wanted to get your
I wanted
back.
my
Because
$50.
that's what your grandmother said.
Right. That was
Boy,
my grandmother.
You can't trust those things.
Yeah.
I'll tell you. They probably spent your $50.
Well, I know. And then, so I decided what to do was that I was just going to save my money and not put it in the bank. I'm just a kid, right?
Right.
But we got robbed, and when we got robbed, they stole my cash. So then I thought, well, I'll go back to banks and try banks again.
Yeah.
And so I was 20 years old, and you had to keep a $5 minimum in a bank account, or they would charge you. And so I couldn't keep that in there. And they actually, when they closed my account, I owed $5. So I realized that I never do with the stock market or deal with the banks of the savings on that. I always do real estate instead. So that was sort of interesting to come up with that. Yeah.
Good of you to find the source of that so clearly.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. And of course, I released that immediately. And my affirmation is I can trust my inner guidance for prosperity.
There you go.
Yeah.
Very nice. Those are great. Sherry's got one.
I've had the belief that I would always have exactly what I need. And its origin was that when I was a little girl, if I would ask my dad for like 35 cents for a candy bar or something, he would then go into his pocket and feel around and feel around and feel around and bring out exactly 35 cents. So that happened over and over again.
Because he could read coins in
Yes.
braille.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yes. He knew exactly how to do that. And it's affected me in the way that, I get exactly what I need instead of having more than I need, more than enough to handle all my desires. And yes, I choose to release that. And my affirmation is that I always have more than enough to do everything that I desire.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
There it is. You got one up there?
This was actually a very painful exercise for me. I always was given the message by my mother that if you didn't have money, you weren't good enough. And only people that had money mattered. So I always found that I was giving my money away because I wanted people to like me. But I realized that in the last day or so that I am loved for who I am, not for what I have or what I have to give.
Very nice. Very nice.
And
Okay, so my belief has been a limiting belief that I can only make, it's tied to what I can make is what for myself. I think, well, I have to do this and then I'll get that. But the stars have been lining up this year. I think this is finally the year that I'm okay with having more money than I actually have traded my time for. And between this class and just thinking about it, and Drew donating money to take a Robert Kiyosaki class that has given me a glimpse into a way that we can be investors and we can get our money to work for us, and in a way that makes it seem possible. It's all making more sense now. So I don't know where it came from. I don't care where it came from. But my new affirmation is that abundance comes easily.
Yeah.
Abundance comes easily to you.
Yeah.
To you.
Yes.
Just focus on you.
Yes.
Let the rest of the world handle it itself. It's on you. Good for you. That's fantastic. And it's not about the starters. It's about your clarity. There you go.
So I just wanted to take a side note and say that Amanda and Carrie both completed the Spartan race over the weekend.
For everybody else that's watching us online, the Spartan race is the weirdest thing you've ever heard of. It's grueling. How long is it? How long are you out there?
We just did the 5K.
Okay, it's a 5K, but you do crazy obstacle stuff. The one that everybody knows about is you have to go under mud, under some kind of fencing thing, and come up the other side. That's the one that is just amazing to me. Okay, we got that handled. Okay, Drew, you're up.
Not to diminish that, but that was my day in life every day.
Well, I know, but you are a Spartan.
You're a commander.
And anyway, yeah, that was a 5% loan, though. Right? We'll talk about that. Kidding. Yeah, limiting beliefs. Wow. Yeah. I believed stupidly that I wasn't good enough, even though I had paper routes. I had more paper routes than I had a kid. My lawn service, I was working since I was 12 years old. Worked hard for everything I had. If you don't work hard, you don't have to work hard. You just have to really think clear.
Mm-hmm. Hallelujah.
You know, and I remember clearly in 8th grade, they had this big thing in school. They brought us in the auditorium. One guy said, the generation before you was the last generation to be able to own a home by themselves. And I'm like, what are we doing here? What? The game's over before we even play? Oh, it's not over. And when things start to shift for you, they get really wild and crazy like I'm going through now. But I know through all of it, even though sometimes you want to scream and cry and everything, I don't know, it's uncomfortable maybe a little bit. I know it's going to be amazing. Amazing. And I'm more than good enough.
Yay.
All right.
Yeah.
I accept your affirmation. You are amazing. Okay. Got Deb in the middle here.
Mine is similar to Drew's, and when I looked at my beliefs and growing up, I never felt good enough, and for many reasons, just being a woman in the South, being gay, and just lots of different reasons, and the Baptist Church telling me things. But anyway, so I went through my life trying to do good all the time, to be good enough, and to earn my likability, or I wanted people to like me, so that I felt okay about myself. And so how it's affected me is that I have spent so much of my energy doing things for other people and not putting enough time and energy into myself, or not putting it into people that really do matter to me, that do things for me. So when you look at tithing, you look about putting your money where you're spiritually fed, and now I'm looking at where do I put my time and my energy, and I'm wanting to put it into people that are actually loving and supporting me, and not just random people that need something done, and I just do it just because. And so when I at the end of my thing, you know, I put, do you want to release it? I'm like, hell yes. So, you know.
There was room in that box to get over that.
Yeah, I got in there. And so I don't remember what the affirmation was, but I've had all these opportunities from the universe. People asking me to do the most bizarre things. People random out of the blue.
We don't need to know about the bizarre things.
No, I'm just saying. It's like a test from the universe, you know, and it reminds me, you know, that I'm sticking to it. You know, I'm really giving my energy and my time and my love where I'm fed, you know, and I feel better about myself. I love and approve of myself, I think is what it was. It was my affirmation.
Excellent. Thank you. Anything else want to add to this? RJ's got one. We'll move on after this. Barbara's getting a workout here.
Thank you. I'm just thinking, I didn't bring my paper. I know exactly what it was coming from my youth. Belief was basically saving everything. Every penny, every nickel I had, papers, things like that. You know, learning that from my parents. There's a word for that. Hoarding. But from that, you know, he was an electronics person. He had every tool he'd ever made, worked with. He had all kinds of old electronics piled everywhere. And just basically saying stagnation to me. That, you know, when Christmas would come around, I wanted to know exactly how much my brothers and sisters were spending on me so I could spend exactly that amount on them. But the affirmation from that is basically there's more than enough in giving with love and freedom without expectation of anything in return because it's a blessing to give.
Yay. Talk about old beliefs. One for me is that you can't make money on paper route. That's because when I was 12 years old, I took my bike and I got a paper route and I went around and delivered all these papers. And then when I went to collect, because you had to collect, you know, from the people you gave papers to, about half of them said, I didn't order the paper. So I lost money on it. So I had that thought. I let it go, you know, moving on, I'm not going to do papers anymore. And then when my first wife got pregnant, and I was involved, I said, we need more money. So I said, well, I've got a car. I'll do a paper route. Way more places I can. The same freaking thing happened. These people said, I didn't order the paper. But your name is on the list, and this is the list the company gave me. So I don't deliver papers anymore.
What's your affirmation?
I'm never delivering papers. So that was week number 2. Week number 3, I gave you a couple of things to do. First, there were 3 questions I wanted you to answer. What ideas did your parents say that influenced your current understanding of money? Describe things you observed about the way your parents dealt with money, and describe a seminal event from your childhood that impacted how you relate to money. The answers to these questions are very personal, and I'm not asking you to reveal them. Those were for your own exploration. What I'm interested in was this. Create a transitional statement from an ineffective belief and action to an effective belief and desired result. And it goes like this. I no longer indulge in the debilitating act of, you fill in the blank, which in the past I used to fill in the blank, period. Instead, I now fill in the blank. Who's willing to share what they wrote? Deb is willing to share. Oh, you're going to do it from memory, too.
I was ready.
I love it. What'd you get?
I no longer participate in the debilitating act of people-pleasing, which in the past I used for self-validation, and instead now I love and approve of myself.
Ooh, you didn't like the word indulge.
Oh, did I not say that? Or is it no? Oh.
Well, let me tell you why the word indulge is in the phrase. It's because anything that we do over and over again that isn't working is an indulgence. It's like we're stuck in it. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. But I found that the most difficult word in that phrase, the indulge. It's silly to indulge. Not indulge it. Yes, I am. Okay, I get it. So yeah, you're indulging in a debilitating act. It's not working, and you keep doing it over and over and over. You know, so that kind of wakes you up to the fact that this isn't working anymore. I'm not going to do it. Hey, who else had something like that?
I no longer indulge in the debilitating act
of worry, which in the past I used to protect myself. I now live in faith and trust. I no longer indulge in the debilitating act of taking no money responsibility, which in the past I used to spend money to self-medicate loneliness and sadness. Instead, I now understand how important my work is in the world, and I know I cannot share my gifts and live my purpose if I'm broke.
That's lovely.
I now also understand that prosperity is manifested via my thoughts, energy, and limitless consciousness.
You turned it into a sermon. I love it. Great. That's wonderful.
Okay. I no longer indulge in the debilitating act of freaking out, which in the past used to stop me in my tracks. Instead, I now trust that everything always works out for me and I am super successful.
That's wonderful. Y'all nailed this. Anybody else want to step into this? Anybody else? Last call. Laurie, you got that? Cool. You just got home.
I no longer indulge in the debilitating act of hiding my creativity, which in the past I used to placate the criticizers and humiliators that were in my family. Instead, I now flow creatively, enjoy for my pleasure, and if anyone else enjoys, come along.
Wow. Very nice. I think y'all got this. Fantastic. All right. So let's move on to this week. Prosperity principle number 7. We're going to start right away with this. Prosperity. Actually, leave that up for a minute. And I've got some things I need to say to you before we go to that. I want to talk to you about how your mind works, and then we'll get into how this works. Your mind has two parts. All of you have heard this before. You have your conscious mind, and you have what's called your subconscious mind, also called your subjective mind, your reactive mind, and it's got a dozen other names. What's the difference between those two? I'm going to give you the best example I know how to use, or the best example I've got to describe this in current terms. And that would be with your computer. Who's got a computer? Okay, so most of you have a computer, and you've probably heard that there are different kinds of memory in your computer, too. There's a thing called RAM, right? Random access memory. And then there's the other kind of memory in your computer, which is the memory that goes on your hard drive. Okay? So you've got RAM and hard drive. We're going to call them that tonight. They may have other names. The deal is that if you start typing stuff into your computer or download a picture or something and just have it there on your screen, what's holding that? Your RAM is holding that. It's not saved. Remember the part about saving? Computers auto-save now because we were terrible at remembering to save. And the lights would go off and the computer would shut down and we lose all that work and all that silliness that used to happen. Now it's auto-save. But for a long time, we had to actually remember to save that where? Into our hard drive. Now, our hard drive is organized very well through a series of folders and topics and ultimately files. So that we can do what? So that we can retrieve that information when we want to. That's exactly how mind works. Your conscious memory, your conscious mind, is RAM. It's the stuff that's up in front of you right now that you're thinking about, whatever's going on that you're thinking about, right? Whatever you're talking about, whatever is important to you in the moment. That's all happening right now. Now, and in your hard drive is everything else. Everything else you've ever experienced. Because unlike a computer, your subjective or your subconscious mind keeps everything. But the thing is, you don't remember everything even if you want to. If I asked you right now what all your beliefs were and said, write them down, you couldn't do it. But if I said, who likes chocolate? Boom, the hands would go up, right? Because some of you really, really like chocolate. That's a belief. That's something that you've got, that you hold as value. So that's how it works in your mind is, you may have access to everything in your mind, and you could be hypnotized and remember things that you might not otherwise remember. But the way your files in your subjective or subconscious mind are organized is those that have the highest priority of value in your life are right up on top. And if you have an experience or someone asks you a question or there's something for you to think about, that memory will pop up. The one that's right on top, the one you make as your priority, that's what pops up. Maybe more than one, but at least one. So that all that other subliminal stuff really isn't important to the mix. But if you're asked a question about something, you can come up with an answer based on what has happened to you before. And what's happened to you before is organized according to what makes you safe. Most people don't know that, but what you're remembering, because when you see your parents do something and it's a problem, you're going to avoid that because that's not safe. But if you see someone be really kind to you, or like your childhood friend, your memory of them, of that kindness, that was safe, that was lovely, that was wonderful. So we tend to prioritize according to safe, not according to prosperity. Interesting. Works just very similar to your computer. And that's how it works. So that you always have an answer based on what made you safe. Now the thing is that just like in your computer, some of your files get old. They're not active information anymore. And when you go through and like when you want to clean up your files, ooh, what's that? You click down on it and it brings up something, you go, I don't need that anymore. And you delete it. Well, in your life, you can't really, in your subconscious mind, you can't delete things. You have to actually make something more important, something more higher prioritized for it to rise above that. The idea of unlearning has a caveat that your subconscious mind doesn't unlearn. Your unlearning is when you make something a higher priority. And if it's a higher priority, then it's the thing that comes up when something pops, when something's going on. So there's still a learning aspect to that, in that old memory, that old belief has dug a hole in your brain. It's got this pathway that's well traveled because of all the times you've said it over and over and over again. That does not mean you can't change it. But what you have to do at times is when something comes up around that idea of money or having wealth or saving money or whatever the thing is that's going on, that old thing will still pop up. And you have to go, wait a minute, no. This is what I believe. And reinforce that and give a higher priority to that old idea that does not serve you anymore. That's one of those files that just doesn't serve you. So you've got to make things more important. And the way you do that is with this. Everyone can change their thinking in ways that will support them in having a healthy, happy, prosperous life. But you have to do the work. It doesn't come natural. The natural thing that comes is that same old belief that's always been there. As long as you remember. Wait a second. Got to be in the money. We have a question.
John, you were saying we prioritize in order of what makes us feel safe. So when
subconsciously we do that.
Right. So when I'm thinking safe, that would also to me include it makes us feel safe only because it's familiar.
That's a big piece of it. That's a really good point.
Even if it's not making us safe, but we are familiar with it.
Right.
We think it's safe.
Here's the conversation in your mind. Oh, doing that, taking that job or trying this venture, God, it could fall apart. Nah, you don't want to do that. You're okay the way you are. It's okay. Just keep things the way they are. Don't change. Don't change that. Don't do that. Don't do that. There's a risk factor there. It's not a good idea to take that. That's safe. It's safe, but you never get anywhere. So as our friend Edwin Gaines says, if your palms aren't sweating, you're not playing a big enough game. And the only way to play a bigger game is to create that and to shift away from those things you've always believed. And be willing to take up the challenge. Because when that thought comes up that, no, this isn't safe, or especially when fear comes up, oh my God, what if I did that? What if I invested money in this venture and then I lost it? That's fear. And if you believe in the venture, the thing to say is, thank you for that information. I'm really glad to see that what I'm doing is taking a risk. However, I believe in this thing. I've studied it. I've prayed on it. I've worked on it. And I'm going forward. And I don't know how everything about it's going to turn out. But I have faith in me, and I'm good with this. I'm moving forward. And not falling into the trap of believing the safe belief anymore, and using that and functioning from it, and having all of our actions in life based on that we've used before that has only gotten us to where we are. And not to say that there's anything wrong with where we are, but wow, if we want to do something beyond what we're doing now, we have to be willing to take that chance. And we have to step beyond the safe. And we have to look at it and be okay with it, even though it's scary. Everybody has fear. Somebody said recently there was someone that received the Medal of Freedom at the White House, and when they were interviewed, they were asked, well, so were you afraid? He said, anybody in a battlefield has got to be afraid or something's wrong with them. But that doesn't stop you from doing what you need to do. And the same applies here. Don't let those old ideas that have been around in your subconscious mind for decades stop you from doing something new, something different. I'm not saying do everything that comes up, but don't let it stop you. Consider it. Look at it. See beyond the fear, beyond the concern that is only attached to where you came from. And see what's there that might delight you in your life. And work from that place. So again, everyone can change their thinking in ways that will support them in having a healthy, happy, and prosperous life. Okay. Let's go on to our next one. I just want to make sure we're in. That is we're in. Impoverished people believe life happens to them. Prosperous people believe they create their lives. Now, I want to talk about the word impoverished. I have known a lot of people in my life. They didn't have a lot of money. And they were good teachers for me because I had the great honor of working in a program that built food gardens in public housing communities. I thought I went in there, I was in my early 30s, and I thought I went in there to help those people. And what happened was those people gave me an education. They were wonderful people. They were proud. Many of them were proud people. Now, they had the drug addicts and the crime, and yes, there was that time where a guy ran through the gardens with a gun and the police were right behind him. Those moments happened, but all in all, I was working with the matriarchs of the community. And they were proud people, and they were good people, and I was honored to learn from them. And just for fun, I brought down what I've got left from those times. They were called Opportunity Food Gardens for public housing residents. I did them in, South Florida, the Los Angeles area, Atlanta, Washington, Chicago, and other places. And if you're at all interested in looking at that, send that around, because that was a great time in my life where I learned a lot. So that, when I'm talking about impoverished, I'm talking about a mindset of being impoverished. Impoverished by your own thinking. Okay? This is not about that. This is different. I want to make that clear. Impoverished people believe life happens to them. Prosperous people believe they create their lives. So if someone is saying that that life is happening to them, if they have any thought that that's true, they're focused on what's not working. And what are they going to get? They're going to get what's not working. And what that's going to do is prove to them, once again, that life isn't working. And they're going to be stuck there. And it's tough to live that life. But when you're in that mindset and you've proven it to yourself over and over and over again, you're absolutely certain that's so. And it is in your life. It is. And that's true of any of us. If we take a limiting thought, we'll prove it to ourselves. We'll see it. It'll show up, and we'll go, there it is. There it is again. See, this is why I won't do that, because of that. It's outer referenced. It's outer reference saying that that I can prove it by these experiences in my life, which are all created where? Within us. Right. So we have a belief, and that belief goes out into the world, and reflects back to us so that we can say, yep, what I said, what I believe is true. It doesn't matter what you believe, that always works. Okay? But if you believe that you create your life and you take absolute 100%, at least 99% responsibility for everything that happens in your life, then you're playing a prosperous game. And that is never about blame. There's no blame in that. There's only opportunity to be responsible. Responsibility is a lovely thing. It means I can respond to it. It doesn't mean blame. Those two ideas have been crossed for years, and I've never really understood how that works. But the truth is that we are really responsible for our life. It's when we think that we're not responsible that we're giving our power away. And when we step away, when we don't have that, we're not empowered in our lives, it's easy to prove that life happens to us. Okay? So that's a pretty easy one to understand. Did you want to say something, Breezy? No, not without a mic.
I was just going to say it's like the Henry Ford quote, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right.
Yeah, sure. You're absolutely right. That's another way to say it. A very nice way that Ford came up with to say it. All right, that's prosperity principle number 8. Prosperity principle number 9. Money is extremely important when it's required and extremely unimportant when it's not required. So, how do you think that fits into this prosperous versus impoverished mindset? You might say that people with an impoverished consciousness, money is important all the time. Money is important because I need more money. Because I gotta have more money, because I'm worried about money. And money is on my mind all the time. If I don't have enough money, I can't pay the rent. And I can't take care of myself, and I'll lose my apartment. And next thing I'll be losing my car. I gotta get more money. And it becomes obsessive. Prosperous people don't think about money all the time. They think about other things that have nothing to do with it. Now, I don't want to suggest impoverished people never think about love, but it's harder for them to focus on the idea of love because they're in a survival mode. They're trying to make it hold together. Where people who are prosperous have plenty of time for fun and happiness and joy and love and all the other benefits of life, those things you can't take to a bank. Bank won't take them, right? Can't pay a bill with them either. But aren't they incredibly important in a balanced, wholesome life? Relationships, connections, being happy, being healthy. A lot of people have money worries, and they worry themselves to being sick. It's just not a healthy way to live your life when money is the top priority all the time. And when it's a survival thing, it's mandated. How can you afford not to think about money all the time? Because you got to pay those bills. If you don't pay those bills, everything's going wrong. So It's not a healthy way to be. It doesn't work. It doesn't take us to that place that we want to go. Money is extremely important when it is required, and extremely unimportant when it is not required. And money is required for certain aspects of our lives. So I'm not suggesting that anybody could live a life where money was unimportant all of the time. That doesn't work. That's not the way we're structured. Money is that tool we use in exchange. And as somebody said here, I forget who it was, but that idea of the exchange, I think it was you, Amanda, was talking about the exchange and value given in that in life. And that most people think that they're going to get an hourly wage. And people who think from the idea of an hourly wage are impoverished. You know, this fighting for a higher minimum wage so that everyone could have a new minimum. Because I'm only seeking to do the minimum, but I want it to be bigger. It doesn't work like that. I mean, I'm not saying that there won't be a raise and an increase in the minimum wage, but I'm thinking about all the people that think that way. You know, that are people that are making $12 an hour now and somehow think their lives will be vastly better at 15. They won't. It won't make enough difference for them to move beyond an impoverished mindset. That's not the answer. The answer is within the individual and how we experience this idea of value added. What are we bringing to the table? And frankly, if it's $15 an hour, we're playing a very small game. There's a better game for everybody. I mean, perhaps, you know, I have heard we need people that work for minimum wage because nobody else wants those jobs. Well, you know, my thought is that we could restructure our whole society in a way that everybody could win, rather than having a class of people that have to lose. Yay! So we'll keep looking for that. Right now, it's up to each of us to do it. The government's not going to do it for us. Society's not going to do it for us. We have to find our own way with this. And we do that by knowing where it's important to think about money and where it's not. And drawing the line there, making sure that you're clear. And then when you focus on money, you're fresh and ready and you have a sense of who you are. And you bring that to the creation of money in your life. Jane has a thought.
Okay, question.
Yes, sir.
Is it possible to cut out competition?
Is it possible to cut out competition?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I've always believed that collaboration is maybe not always, but I have come to believe that collaboration is a higher state of relationship than competition. You know, and any capitalist will tell you that competition makes people find better ways to do things and you know, raises the value of things because of competition. But I think you could argue the same thing with collaboration. You know, it's just a different way to organize it. Actually, I believe, takes us to a more fulfilling place of working together. And I know that there are people in industries, and I believe Mary Love may be one of them, that teaches people how to collaborate in the real estate market, especially around green, so that they can all do better. When I was the president of Centers for Spiritual Living, I created a new area of ministry. I coined a new area of ministry. It was already happening. But what I realized was that we had 2 or 3 what are called focus ministries that were specifically focusing on doing their work online. I said, oh, those people need each other. They don't just need to be on a list somewhere. They need to be talking to each other. So I convinced the powers that be to add a 4th area of ministry. We have centers and churches. We have what's called teaching chapters. We have what are called focus ministries, which are really whatever you want to do. But then now we've pulled out of that online ministries. So that's a category of ministry in our movement. And the only reason I did that was not to segregate them from anybody else, but to bring them together so they could collaborate and figure out how to do this work online very well. And frankly, I feel like I'm being rewarded for that work that I did there, because our online work is as good as anywhere in this movement.
Yeah.
We're touching as many lives as any other ministry. So I believe that being that generous and bringing forth the idea of collaboration created it in our world. Yes?
When I taught, that's what I did.
Oh.
Hello.
When I taught, that's what I did, is I cut out competition in my classroom, and I was teaching writing in college.
And it worked, didn't it?
What?
It worked.
And it worked because I divided the students into groups, and each group, they all read groups of maybe four or five students, and they read each other's papers and created, and made them stronger. And then they presented these papers to the rest of the class. The rest of the class took notes on them.
That's great.
And it was,
So you up-leveled the whole class?
Huh?
You up-leveled the whole class by doing that?
I did, yeah. And not only that, but the writing, students who, were really never had written their, suddenly became very good.
Yeah, good for you. That's brilliant. Thank you. Please give her a hand. Here's another problem with competition, is that it presumes that there's not enough. And that you've got to fight to get your share. But the truth is there's as much as we want to have. And that when industries collaborate and work together, that what you find out is there's more to sell. There's more services to give. There's more products. So that collaboration has a value of increasing the market rather than restricting the market with the idea that there's not enough. Good question. Thank you. Yeah, let's take a break and we'll come back. Thank you. So, we're on 9, on Prosperity Principle 9. Let's start looking at number 10. Impoverished people complain about their failures. Prosperous people share their successes. So, why would impoverished people complain about their failures?
Because it's not.
Well, go ahead and give me a thought, and I'll repeat what you said.
It's not them.
They think it's not them. They think it's not them, and they want to justify why their life is the way it is by complaining that life's not working. So, and if you hold that there are failures in your life, obviously that's what you're going to get more of. There's an interesting thing that I learned from the great teacher Carolyn Mace. It's called woundology. She calls it that. Have you heard of this?
Yes.
It's an amazing idea. And you've all seen it. And when I describe it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So someone says, I'm having a real issue with arthritis in my right knee. And it's really bothering me a lot. And the person they're talking to says, yeah, I'm actually having a problem with my back. And what they're saying is, I can hear that you're suffering. Now, I want you to know that I'm suffering. And so we have this in common. We're both suffering. It's called woundology. It's a real thing. And it applies even in the idea of prosperity, is that people that see their life as having failures will commune with other people who are experiencing failure. It's just a comfort point. It's probably a safe place where they can talk about all the things that aren't working. And again, what they get is things not working. Now, a prosperous person does not want to tell you what's not working in their life. They don't want you to know that anything's not working in their life. They're working on taking care of it, but they're not broadcasting it. That's not part of who they are. But if you want to hear what's really working in their life, they will talk to you all day about it. Because they're excited about those things and they're focused on those things. And they want more of that in their life. And they may even be wanting to recruit you into their multi-level marketing or whatever's going on. But prosperous people are focused on success. Where people that are impoverished are focused on what doesn't work. It's that simply delineated. Now, this is one of those that has kind of, these are two extremes. There are impoverished people that's all they focus on is what's not working, and they complain about it. And there are prosperous people that only talk about all the good in their life. And then there's a lot of space in between. So I'm not saying that it's an absolute black and white. There's a lot of gray there. But still, your job in looking at this idea, this principle is, where do you tend to be? And where do you want to be? And where is it going to work for you to be? Obviously, not complaining, right? So what has been kind of woven through the principles that we've already talked is the idea that if you want to live a prosperous life, that you must give up blaming, justifying, and complaining. There's no blaming anybody for your life. Even blaming yourself doesn't work. And that was mine. My inner critic was the dominant characteristic in my life for many years. And every time I would do something where I misstepped, I would immediately, out loud, start berating myself and saying, "You stupid, blah, 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 you can't get anything right, blah, blah, blah," and on I would go. And it was like a natural. It didn't even, I didn't even think about it. It just came out. That doesn't work. That doesn't work at all. This whole idea of blaming is not something that we can proceed into something good. What good could come from blaming? Anyone. Ourselves or someone else. Now, we may choose not to have someone in our lives. I got people that's like that. I have relatives. I want no part of them. I love them. But when they come into my life, they bring all this drama and all this stuff I want no part of. So I love them from a distance. That really works well. You know, and they send me emails and texts and tell me how they're so sad that we do not see each other. And then I occasionally go through the thing of sending them a letter of gratitude. I'm really grateful for this that I see in my life because of you. Oh, you want to make up? You want to get together? No. I'm just speaking my gratitude. And that works. I'm really happy with that. You know? Yeah, and you know exactly what that means. And the same goes with trying to justify. This whole idea of justifying things in our life. Anybody who tells you that money's not really that important to them is broke. Because that's how they justify it. Oh, money's not that important. I don't have any. You know? But really, isn't that really how it works? And then complaining people are just going down that road of being broke all their lives. Because they're so beating that drum, and it doesn't work. It doesn't get you anywhere. Now, all of those people that are doing those things of blaming and justifying and complaining would tell you they love to have a bunch of money. Why don't they have a bunch of money? I think we're going to find out tonight. Okay? Let's see where we're going next. Prosperity principle number 11. There's no such thing as a prosperous victim.
Yeah.
Isn't it true? Did you ever know someone who played the victim role, who had a very prosperous life? I've never known anybody. I've known lots of people that are prosperous, extremely prosperous. And I know some that were moving in that direction in their lives. Not one of them is a victim. Now, there's people that I saw things in that they couldn't see in themselves, who then played the victim card. And I'd have to say, well, I saw something that they can't see, so it's their life. Okay. You know, but there's no such thing as a prosperous victim. If you see yourself in any way victimized by any person, circumstance, situation, birth defect, I don't know what it could be, no, do not play the victim card. And frankly, the person that teaches me the most about that in my life, please stand, it's you. I'm serious, Jim. Stand up, I want you to look in the camera. Since this woman has come to this center, she has taught me about living a prosperous life no matter what. You know, most of my life I've been pretty healthy. I've gone through this thing with my back recently, and I'm coming out of it quick. They're telling me a month's pretty quick to be able to do what I can do. But I've gone through nothing like you have. And yet you stand here, you smile, you speak the truth, you're joyous, you're a delight to be with, and now you're a practitioner of our center. No victims, ever. Now that doesn't mean that you can't go to a practitioner and say, I haven't figured out how to work this out yet. You can. But don't talk about how bad your life is. Don't talk about how horrible it has been to go through what you've gone through. I was doing a little of that with my back, and I realized I don't want to talk about that anymore. I'm moving forward. I'm actually going to a yoga retreat next weekend. And I'm the chief chef in the kitchen. Chef means boss. So I get to tell all the other workers in the kitchen what to do. We're going to have great meals. And probably I'll sit in a lotus position during much of the yoga. Well, whatever it is, it'll work great, you know? Because I choose to be that way. Anybody can fall into that trap of feeling like a victim. God knows those moments where I could not move and Barbara was feeding me. That's where I wanted to go. And probably did. But I can't go there anymore. I don't want to be held back by that anymore. I want my life to be whole. I want to be healthy. I want to be prosperous. I want to bring value to my life, and to all life. So you can't play there. You can't have it both ways. So that's why it says that there is no such thing as a prosperous thing. Number 12, impoverished people don't want to lose. Prosperous people do whatever it takes to win. See the difference? Big difference. Impoverished people don't want to lose. They're focused on losing. And they're afraid, and they're worried about losing, and they think they're trying to do something to keep from losing. But the focus is all still losing. Wow. When I was at INTA, I happened to meet a guy who works in the healthcare industry, and he's actually studying to be a minister now. And he's working on a project to demonstrate that affirmative prayer actually creates healing in people. And we were talking about Dossie and some of the other people who have done that kind of research. And he said there was, in the last few years, a project where there was supposed to be a double-blind study on people praying for people that had gone into the hospital and that were recovering from some kind of ailment. I didn't really get the details, but he said part of the instructions to the ones that were praying was to say this affirmation every day. And the affirmation was that whatever the malady was they were going through would be, they would recover from it easily. But they focused on the problem. You can't put that in an affirmation. So the results of that was that people were struggling more that were in this study. So they said, well, that proves it doesn't work. It didn't prove it at all. It actually proved it did work. Because they gave them an affirmation that denied the healing that was there. And they were saying it for them there every day, lovingly saying, you can't have your healing. You can't have your healing. You can't have your healing. They didn't heal. Well, I guess it doesn't work. No, that's not how it works at all. That's not where we are. Impoverished people don't want to lose, making lose the operative word. Where prosperous people do whatever it takes to win. Whatever it takes. And that's an important little piece of the puzzle. I'm going to make this work whatever it takes. Because when you go into any kind of venture and you're seeking to have an outcome that works for you, you don't know what's everything that's going to happen. Don't be foolish and think you do, because you get slapped down. But when you say, whatever it's going to take, whatever I have to do, I'm going to get this thing that I want, you're telling the universe it's yours. That makes the difference. That is the defining difference to winning. I'll do whatever it takes. Reminds me of Tiger Woods. And I'm sure that lots of golfers do this, but Tiger Woods, when he was the #1 player in the world, when he could nail a drive right down the center of the fairway and do eagles virtually every time he went out and did 18 holes. He just was this phenom and could do that. But what did he do every morning? He got on the putting green for hours. Hours. And on the driving range. For hours. But he was already the best in the world. Why did he do all that? Because he wanted to stay the best in the world. And you know, looking at that life, that very interesting life of Tiger Woods, phenomenal athlete. And look at what happened when all the craziness showed up in his life. Totally distracted. Golf is a mental game. Everybody knows that. Every game is a mental game. But in particular, you can see it in golf. He could not drive that ball or putt the way he could before when all that stuff was distracting him. He forgot who he was. It took him a while to recover. You know, he won one of the grand tournaments this year. I think he won Augusta. You know, fantastic. He knows how to do that. He didn't win any of the other ones, but he won that one. And it reminded all of us of his greatness. And that works. And anyone can do that with that level of whatever it takes. Mary has a thought.
I just wanted to say that's like whatever it takes and all, because it was 16 years for us always talking about our house and our dream community, and we thought we had to create it, but we didn't. Somebody else did, and
we didn't have to build it, but you had to create it.
We had the vision, and we kept it for us. So it goes, you know, whatever it takes. We never gave up.
You certainly created owning it. Yeah. And it doesn't really matter how long it takes. That's kind of part of the deal, too. If you start, I mean, most people that teach goal setting will say by a certain date, and that's nice. But yeah, that doesn't really matter. You know, I've accomplished probably, well, let's say virtually everything I put on my annual outcomes, but usually not in the year I said I would. So what does it matter if you do it, right? So don't let time be a distraction. Don't think that if you say that you will accomplish something by a certain date, and that date comes and goes and you haven't, that you've lost. It's over. That's a terrible way to look at it. Who are you to set the time limit? You know, it's yours to say whatever it takes. And that goes with as long as it takes. And if you're clear that it's yours, and it will show up at exactly the right time in exactly the right way from your efforts. Now, I'm not saying just, you know, make grand statements and then sit back. You got to follow up on it. You got to do whatever it takes. And when you do, you are moving toward it, and it is very much moving toward you. Okay? You got this one, right? Okay. 13. Impoverished people want to be rich. Prosperous people are committed to their success. Huh. Who's heard of the 10-10-80 plan? 10-10-80. One person. Two. Let me tell you about the 10-10-80. 10% tithe, 10% savings, 80% pay your bills. Oh, but what if I can't pay my bills on 80%? Then make more. Because you can. You always can. This idea of anything being limited is ridiculous. Life is malleable. Income is malleable. Oh, I can't. This is what I make. This is my Social Security check. No. So that means you sit and wait for the government to send you money? Or do you use your time to generate activity and flow and interest and value? Anybody that sits back and receives any kind of money from the government and says, well, that's it, I'm on a fixed income, bores me to tears. don't do that. And I don't know of anybody in the room that does it, so I'm not looking at you. I'm just knowing there's a better way to be. Do something that generates something for you, and you can do it. You can start as a volunteer and turn it into some kind of skill set that you actually make some money on. Really, whatever you're doing, you can up-level it. You're never at a fixed income. You know, the whole idea of serving in restaurants, I've always found fascinating. That some people, you know, there's that weird income they make from the restaurant, which is nothing. No, not tips. I'm talking about the money they get from the restaurant. Yeah, right. That's not it. And yet, there are servers in restaurants that make so much money, and that money that comes from the restaurant is a tiny amount. They provide such a grand service that people regularly pay them very generous tips because of who they are, because of their consciousness. I often tip more than 20%, but it's a wow factor. Oh, wow, you're really good at this. I'm going to give you more money. It happens to people all the time, and they make good income from that. You know, and should that be a larger amount? Probably. But still, it would, to those kind of people, it doesn't matter how large you make that. It's still not going to be most of what they make. Because they'll be doing 8, 10, 12 tables and satisfying all those people and dazzling them with what they know. Edwin Gaines and I had lunch at a fancy restaurant in Chattanooga, and she and that server just they were like back and forth because they're both comedians, and it was like being at a comedy show watching these two go with each other. It was fascinating. And did I tip him generously? You bet I did. That was a performance. I loved it. You know. So that just is one example of how there's no such thing as a fixed income unless you fixed it. And frankly, if you fixed it, you broke it. Okay. Prosperous people are committed to their success. What do I want to say about commitment? I have a lot to say about that. Now, let's talk about the people that want to be rich. Yeah, except. I love that one. Except. Here are some of the exceptions that I found in life. What if I got rich and then I lost everything? What a failure I'd be. You know, if I was rich, I wouldn't know if people genuinely liked me or they just liked my money. If I was in the highest tax bracket, I have to pay half of my money to the government. Is that not ludicrous? My friends and family would always be asking me for loans or handouts. Learn to say no. Yeah. I'd be a target for thieves and con artists. I wouldn't know how to manage large amounts of money. Too much responsibility. I wouldn't know who to hire. Investment and brokerage accounts scare me. I'm not that smart. Wealth is for people who are more ambitious than I am. I wouldn't want to be friends with anyone I know who's rich. Is that stupid? And it goes on and on. All those little hidden thoughts in mind that somehow keep us from having our good, from being all that we have come here to be. What a sad state of affairs. Now, the idea of commitment. Commitment to success is required for anyone to prosper. A commitment to success is required. Commitment means giving your best, the best of your time, of your skills, and of your vision. Yeah, probably that vision. This is my favorite quote on commitment from W.H. Murray, the mountain climber. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy. the chance to draw back. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. That the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issues from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidences and meetings and material assistance, which no one could have dreamed would have come their way. Whatever you can do, or dream you can do, beginning, boldness, has genius, power, and magic in it.
Yes.
Pretty sure that's Goethe.
No, actually it isn't. That's a misquote. Yeah, I've been working with that for years. Actually, I think Goethe may have written the last couple of lines of that. But the whole thing is Murray. What's that? H.W. Murray. Yeah. He climbed Mount Everest. He was a Himalayan climber. Okay. Here we go. Principle 14. The primary reason most people never become prosperous is that they don't really know what they want. Who's done a vision board? Okay. A vision board is designed for you to cut things out of the very few magazines that are left anymore and put them on a big board and look at it every day and say, this is my life. Now, that picture is just a picture out of a magazine, but it means something to you. When you look at it, you're reminded of this thing that you want. Let me tell you about wanting. Wanting will never get you anything. But if you don't know what you want, you'll never get where that is. Wanting and desire are important because they point the direction like a compass. So if you imagine that you've got a compass and you want to go west, you believe that where you're going is west, you're going to go that way because that's west. But if you hold the compass and go, compass, take me to where I want to be. No, take me now. Nothing happens. Nothing happens at all. It's a tool. Your desire is a tool. You must have it the same way you would want a compass if you were out in the wild. You want to have that support of knowing what you want. In fact, without it, how are you ever going to get there? If you don't know what you want, you can't get it. But it's not the wanting that gets it, it's you that gets it. It's your action, it's your belief, it's your trust in yourself that you can do that. That's the initiative that must be taken to get you there. But knowing what you want really does help, and that vision board helps. One of my favorite stories about a vision board came from a teacher named James Ray. You may remember him. He was very popular for a while. And he made a vision board. And one of the things he wanted was a big house. And so he put a picture of the big house on his vision board and the other things that he desired in his life. And kept that vision board for years and finally put it away somewhere because it got kind of ratty looking. And in his life, as he became more popular and made more money, he bought himself a nice big house. And I don't remember the exact detail of it causing him to pull out that old vision board. But when he did pull it out, what he saw was that he had bought the house that was in the picture. When his son pointed it out to him, Dad, that house on your vision board? That's the house.
Yeah, he was in the process of moving to the house and the packing materials.
Right.
Yeah, there you go. So one of the grandest stories I ever heard about vision boards, never underestimate the power, not of the piece of board with the pictures on it, but of your mind to create what you say is yours. You have an incredible ability to create what you say is yours. But if you can't say what is yours, then you can't have it. Most people think, I will become rich when I win the lottery. But most of those people have no idea how their life would be if they won the lottery. They don't know. They just don't, because it's a fantasy, and they get giddy at the thought that they could win the lottery. But it's not a thought that is complete, that takes them to a place of knowing the truth of who they are. That's your job, to do that. So to get that done this week, to set you out on this journey, we have homework. I'll just get started. I'm handing you too many, so when they get to the end, leave them down there, and we'll collect them up and put them out for whoever comes next time. There you go. So the questions are pretty clear. I read them 3 times, even though I had no editor. But I'm pretty sure I got them right. So I want you, the idea of this, you don't have to do this in one sitting. In fact, you may want to think about some of these. Don't be flippant with it. I want this really to help you create a course for your life. And to do that, you need to be honest with yourself. I'm not going to make anybody show their answers. But all of these are asking you questions that will give you some clarity about where you want to go with your life and what your standards are. So, one of the things that really works is playing big. So don't be afraid to play big in this work. So who learned something tonight? Thank you. I did my work. Barbara, I'm going to hand this back to you. Dave. Love you guys.
That was really good stuff, John.
Thank you.
It's nice to see you vertical. Yeah. I love all of this information because it helps us get through the blocks that we have in our growth. I'm getting emails from people that are pretty much the same. They are, I've fallen into fear. I'm afraid that this terrible thing is going to happen, and I don't know what to do with my thoughts. I'm dreaming that something terrible is going to happen. That's the subconscious coming up and trying to, the sabotage of the subconscious mind, trying to get its foot in there so that we're not changing our thoughts. And through all of these questions, what do I do, what do I do, what do I do? I'm panicked, I'm afraid, I'm stuck. It's all the same answer. You have to stop thinking about what you don't want. And you have to force yourself to think about what you want. And you have to think that thought over and over and over again so that you stop the literal growth of the brain cells that are grown together in struggle and suffering and limitation and fear, and you give your brain a chance to literally grow new pathways with prosperity and ease and joy and happiness. And the only way that I know how to do that, people think that I have some new answer. There's 1,000 items on our website, all saying the same thing. I said it 10 years ago. John said it 10 years ago. We said it last week. It's all the same thing. You have to force yourself to think a new thought if you want to have a new experience. And these are all wonderful ways of helping us do that, but that seems to be the big block, that something's going to go boo in the night, we're going to fall into old patterns, and then we're going to say, oh my God, what do I do? Well, there's only one thing to do. It's to get a hold of your thought process, to put your thoughts, your words, and your actions in motion, and create a new experience no matter what. No matter how scary it is, no matter how impossible it seems, no matter how many people are telling us that we can't do that. We have to get a hold of ourselves and think a new thought. And that's why I think it is so important that we do our treatments for increased income over and over and over again with enthusiasm, with energy, with joy as we reach into that seeming nothingness and show up with money, prosperity, opportunity, and success. So again, I gotta ask you, are you ready? Yes! Are you ready to have what you want to have? Yes! Are you ready to what you want to do?
Yes.
Are you ready to go where you want to go?
Yes.
Are you ready to buy what you want to buy?
Yes.
Are you ready to be who you are meant to be?
Yes.
We're going to do this treatment together aloud. I, Barbara, know that God is the source of all supply and that money is God in action. I know that my good is here now. I am so rich and so full that I have an abundance of money to spare and to share today and always. I know that true prosperity includes perfect health, perfect wealth, and perfect happiness. This word, which I speak in faith knowing, now activates universal law and I accept the results. I bless all that I have now and I bless the increase. I bless all the others in the increased income program of our class and I know that we now prosper together in every way. I give thanks for this good and so it is. Again, I, Barbara, know that God is the source of all supply and that money is God in action. I know that my good is here now. I am so rich and so full that I have an abundance of money to spare and to share today and always. I know that true prosperity includes perfect health, perfect wealth, and perfect happiness. This word, which I speak in faith knowing, now activates universal law and I accept the results. I bless all that I have now and I bless the increase. I bless all the others in the increased income program of our class and I know that we now prosper together in every way. I give thanks for this good and so it is. One for the road. I, Barbara, know that God is the source of all supply and that money is God in action. I know that my good is here now. I am so rich and so full that I have an abundance of money to spare and to share today and always. I know that true prosperity includes perfect health, perfect wealth, and perfect happiness. This word, which I speak in faith knowing, now activates universal law and I accept the results. I bless all that I have now and I bless the increase. I bless all the others in the increased income program of our class and I know that we now prosper together in every way. I give thanks for this good and so it is.
Hi, I'm Barbara Waterhouse.
And I'm John Waterhouse. Thank you for watching this message today.
Through our website, cslasheville.org, we have over 1,000 messages, classes, and New Thought books, all to download at no charge to anyone.
Producing this incredibly valuable collection of ideas is really making a difference in the world. It's changing lives everywhere.
Please go to our website, cslasheville.org, and click the Donate button. You can support this life-changing ministry, and when you do, we'll send you a note of thanks and also put you on our daily prayers.
By doing this, you're helping to raise the consciousness of people across the entire globe. We're changing lives together, those lives that are being more prosperous, more healthy, and more joyous. Thank you for being a part of this important work and supporting what we do here at CSL Asheville.
Thank you.